In 560 BC, an artisan named Perilos of Athens presented a hollow bronze bull to the tyrant Phalaris of Sicily. He designed a system of internal pipes that converted the screams of the person burning inside into the sound of a bellowing animal. To test the acoustics, Phalaris ordered Perilos himself to climb inside. This is not a study of death, but a study of the limits of the human central nervous system. Between the 6th century BC and the early 20th century, legal systems across 4 continents developed specific protocols to ensure that the cessation of life was the final, and often most delayed, stage of the punishment. Today, we examine 6 specific methods from the Persian pits to the plazas of imperial China where the objective was not the execution itself, but the duration of the process. You will see how the Roman Empire used 11.5 centimeter iron nails to manipulate respiratory failure, and how the Qing dynasty utilized specific blade counts to keep a heart beating for hours. By the end of this analysis, we will answer a question that baffled 17th century English physicians. How did a woman named Anne Green survive 30 minutes on the gallows? And what did her survival change about the law forever? This is the documented history of the architecture of agony. The brazen bull of Sicily functioned as a convection oven. According to the historian Diodorus Siculus, the victim was locked inside a life-sized bronze statue. A fire was lit beneath it. Bronze has a thermal conductivity of approximately 110 watts per meter Kelvin. This meant the internal temperature would reach 400 degrees Celsius within minutes. The specific cruelty was the acoustic engineering. Perilos designed the pipes to bypass the smell of burning flesh while amplifying the vocalizations. When Phalaris saw the device, he didn't reward the inventor. He used him as the prototype. Historical records indicate that after Perilos was removed from the bull, still alive, but severely burned, Phalaris had him thrown off a cliff to complete the sentence. In 401 BC, the Persian king Artaxerxes II sentenced a soldier named Mithridates to the boats, or schism. This method utilized biological decomposition while the subject was still conscious. Mithridates was stripped and trapped between 2 narrow rowboats with his head, hands, and feet protruding. He was force-fed a mixture of milk and honey. This caused severe, explosive diarrhea. The same mixture was smeared on his face and eyes to attract insects. Here, the story takes a turn from execution into a laboratory of sepsis. Mithridates did not die of trauma. He died of a combination of dehydration, starvation, and septic shock as parasites began to breed within his own waste. According to Plutarch, Mithridates remained conscious for 17 days before his heart finally stopped. Known as Linky, or the death of 1,000 cuts. This method was a legal staple in China until its official abolition in 1905. Unlike other methods, Linky was a public demonstration of anatomical precision. The executioner followed a specific manual. The goal was to remove small portions of muscle and skin from the limbs and chest without hitting major arteries like the femoral or carotid. In the execution of Fuju Li in 1905, which was documented by French soldiers, the process involved a specific sequence designed to keep the brain oxygenated for as long as possible. If you value historical documentation over sensationalism, consider subscribing to our archive. We document the facts of our past to understand the evolution of our present. In 1573, a convicted murderer named Peter Neers was subjected to the breaking wheel in Neumarkt, Germany. The wheel was not just a platform, it was a blunt force instrument. The executioner used a heavy, iron-reinforced wheel to systematically shatter the long bones of the victim, the femurs. Tibius, humerus, and radius Neers received 544 blows. The goal was to turn the limbs into pliant ropes of flesh and bone fragments, which were then woven through the spokes of the wheel. Neers remained alive on the wheel for 2 days. The cause of death in these cases was usually fat embolism syndrome, where bone marrow enters the bloodstream and causes lung failure or exposure. It was a transformation of the human skeleton into a geometric display. The Neo-Assyrian Empire, 911 to 609 BC, used flaying the removal of skin as a tool of statecraft. King Ashurnasirpal II recorded his actions on stone steles. I flayed as many nobles as had rebelled against me and draped their skins over the city walls. From a physiological standpoint, the removal of the skin causes immediate hypothermia and massive fluid loss. However, the Assyrians often left the skin of the face intact to ensure the victim remained recognizable to the public. The process could take hours, and the victims often died from the sheer metabolic collapse of losing their largest organ. While common in media, the reality of Roman crucifixion was only forensically understood in 1968, when archaeologists discovered the remains of a man named Jehohanan in Jerusalem. A 11.5 centimeter iron nail was still embedded in his calcaneus, the heel bone. The Romans did not always nail the palms. They nailed the wrists, between the radius and ulna, to ensure the structure could support the body's weight. Death was caused by pleural effusion and hypercarbia. To breathe, the victim had to push up on their nailed feet to exhale. When exhaustion set in, they would sag, compressing the lungs and slowly suffocating. It was a mechanical cycle of gasping for air that could last for 48 hours. At the start, we mentioned Anne Green. In 1650, she was hanged in Oxford for 30 minutes. Her body was taken to a medical theater for dissection. However, as the physicians opened the coffin, they noticed a faint pulse. They used heat, friction, and cordials to revive her. Anne Green's survival wasn't just a medical anomaly. It forced a legal shift. The court ruled that her survival was an act of God, and she was pardoned. This event contributed to the eventual medicalization of death, the realization that the line between life and its end was a gradient, not a fixed point. The cruelty of these 6 methods lies in their attempt to stretch that gradient to its absolute limit. These facts are part of a darker human record that we must not forget if we are to value our modern human rights. If you want to explore more documented history through a clinical lens, join our community by clicking the subscribe button. Tell us in the comments which of these historical periods has the most documented evidence that still exists today. Thank you for watching.